Henry. I am one of the user group leaders for this national group. I also co-host the Colorado version of as well. I have been using Tableau, gosh, for 10 plus years now. I don't even want to, try to count that far back. It just makes me feel really old. I've been in the education space again for over 20 years. I'm very passionate about education. I used to work for a large school district here in Colorado, where I'm based out of, have since transitioned to a senior manager consulting role with Plant Moran. It's allowed me to kind of stay involved and connected in this amazing community. So very glad to help be one of these co-leaders here in the group. I'm going to pass it off to our other co-leader here, David.
I'm David Ogden, and I'm happy to be the new co-lead. Now, we do like cats too, but just Stephanie and I are just got pictures of our dogs up here. So dogs and cats, people, fish, reptiles, all welcome. I am the assessment facilitator in the Renton School District. Renton is kitty corner, or right next door to Seattle, Washington. We have about 14,000 students. We used to have 15,000. Now we're 14,000, just like everybody else, losing students. And my duties include a variety of things, but Tableau, getting to use Tableau and work with a couple of our great designers here is one of my favorite parts of my job. And we've been using Tableau since we started 2015, 2016, and have enjoyed using it and continuing to grow with the company. I'm a big fan of Tableau Prep. And glad to be here with one of our terrific K12 representatives, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'll just do a quick intro. I'm Sarah Swanbeck. I'm one of our K12 account managers over here, so just helping to facilitate the Iron Viz today. Tableau's sponsoring the prizes, so really appreciate you all joining and putting some hard work into your dashboard designs. So yeah, I'm excited to kick everything off. And just to give you an overview of the Tableau K12 team, we have expanded. So we have some new faces on here if you've been around for a while. Basically, this is just a color-coded map with our contact information. But you can always reach out to me or really just anyone, and we'll get you connected to an internal resource here at Tableau.
I want to note that Cassidy Macias is back.
Yeah.
Her back on the team, and we've got lots of moms in the group, so glad to have the Tableau moms too.
Lots of kids.
All right, so this is just a slide to level set why we're all here. Tableau is big about the data fam, so bringing like-minded folks together to share just best practices, brainstorm, make those connections. Working in K12, you can kind of feel siloed. A lot of the resources that are out there, are commercial facing, and it's really hard to kind of make that mental connection over to the K12 and the unique nuances of education data. So, the intent of this group is to pull you all together. As a leadership team, we are here just to support and nurture those relationships and to provide this platform where you all can come together, network, share great ideas. So kind of that is our role. David, if you'll go to the next slide in here. So Tableau offers a ton of ways to get connected. So there are a few up here. This presentation will be recorded. We're trying to figure out they're just really large files. So we're trying to figure out how to get them saved and published for you. But you'll also have ability to access these slides. So a ton of ways to be able to connect. And so we can help you, locate some of these opportunities as well. David, if we go to the next slide here. I'll post these links in the chat here in a few moments, but the user group, which is how you were able to register for this event, make sure you sign up. I think there is an option for you to consistently get communication, so you're going to want to make sure that is checked as well. There is another link that you'll want to sign up for, and that's the community page. Sarah's really good, and other of the other Tableau reps are really good about adding content, and I know that they're seeking for some team members to help facilitate and manage that page, but it's a way, to post problems, concerns, challenges, and have other people kind of bounce ideas off. So looking to expand that in the future. So if that is an interest of you helping to run that page, let us know. We're looking for some help in there.
Yeah, and also we might even start a Slack channel. Not as many people in K-12 use Slack, but it's a nice way to stay connected. And as uh, Stephanie said, we can sometimes be siloed. You might be the only Tableau user in your school district or within 70 miles of things like that. So getting connected and helping each other with tips and tricks is great. Also, Kelly Rich is doing a lot of Tableau Tuesdays for K-12, and so those are fun other opportunities to see what other people are doing in our environments. We do have some upcoming events. Of course, the Tableau Conference, TC 2024, is coming up. And thanks to Tableau, we have a good K-12 pricing. Makes it a little more affordable to go to the event and get together with other folks from different industries as well as the K-12 industry. And there's so many things going on. We're also seeking presenters for our own tug here. We do it about once a quarter, so September, December, March. Let us know if you're interested. You don't have to be great, you just have to be brave and passionate. And we'd love to see what you guys are doing out there in your data visits. And we'll do some things that are both for beginners, some intermediate, some more advanced things. We want to make sure this is a place where everybody feels they can learn something. But the Tableau conference is the big show coming up. Your second spring break, or during your testing, your state testing maybe, but go down to San Diego is a great way to learn more. The Tableau Doctor sessions are really terrific. You can get some of your questions answered there. They're very fast, that went out. And of course, Data Night Out. They usually have some very good entertainment for those sorts of things. I attended the virtual one. I haven't yet attended the live one, but I'm looking forward to it. And the virtual ones and the videos that they sometimes have afterwards are very helpful. And it's really just so much fun to get part of this community. I'm part of a local Tableau user group here, Western Washington K-12. And it really is great to have like-minded people and to see so many of them all in the same space. Being able to talk about dimensions and measures, and level of detail. More of the same. I don't know as much about it. Want to chime in to see, let us know what you know is coming up?
Yeah, sure. There's going to be, hundreds of sessions at Tableau Conference. If you haven't been before, feel free to message us kind of offline and we can share more details. But they are still in the session selection process. So I know several of you guys have submitted sessions. Unfortunately, we don't really have any ability to influence that. That's kind of at the conference planning level. But regardless, we are planning on doing kind of extra K-12 meetups, et cetera, at TC this year. So whoever's registered from the K-12 community who attends TC will make sure to provide some sort of opportunity to engage and connect with the community further.
And it's also an opportunity to see some of the luminaries. I know if you've been watching some Tableau videos online or on some of the sites like the Fairlage Twins or Tableau Tim, it's an international conference as well, so people come from all over the place. Oh, this is me too, right? Okay, so welcome. So this is our first Iron Viz. I wish I had music or something like that. I'll just have to do it with my mouth here. But our first Iron Viz, we wanted to highlight the skills of folks who are in our own community here, providing them with some data and see what they could come up with. So the data itself, I just grabbed from, let's see, where is the place here? Oh, Common Core data set. So you can go in here. It is our national Common Core data set. You can get all sorts of fun information in here from multiple different school years. Now some of the data lags behind, so you can't get everything for right now. But it's a great place to see and get additional data. There's also a group that's doing EduViz that puts up data sets, so you can practice doing different vizzes on that. But I selected a bunch of data here. This is what we selected here to try to get a variety of things so that people could focus on different parts of the data, even though it was the same data set. And in here we have a wide variety of things. We have lots of names, school, state. They did have one that has a unique ID here, the school ID, county names. And so that people could explore and see different things. The questions I got a lot of were, did you know there's only K3? And I said, yes, I know there's only K3 data. Because the more data we started to add in, just this file got really, really big. But I also wanted people to be able to do time series if they wanted to. So we got some different years in there, got some different demographic information in there, as well as parts and components of different elements of schools and schools in the U.S. And I'm really excited about what we came up with. And so here's how it's going to run. So we'll have a brief presentation of all dashboards. There'll be a Q&A, so you can enter into that. But I think Stephanie and I was going to drop in the chat both the link to the dashboards, which are on Tableau Public, as well as a link to the voting platform. And I will demonstrate that as well, but it'll also be in the chat. And keep the chat going, make it lively, let people know that you like what you're doing. But what we will do, it will kind of look like this. Let me get to, oops. We'll introduce the person. Oh, look, it's David Ogden, and he has his viz here at the tiny URL. They're all going to be tiny URL. It'll be the name of the presenter, and then ironviz.k12 if you want to follow along. If you can't find it in the chat. And David Ogden, oh, that's me. That's right. He created this viz, and he created this viz so that you could see you don't have to be great. And let me just go through this viz. One of the things I found fascinating was that school names. And so when I started doing my stuff, I was like, oh, look at all these cool names in here. So what I really wanted to do was I wanted to do presidents' names, and I was going to do some really fancy stuff so you could hover over the name or the picture of the president and all this sort of stuff. But just like all of you, we work at the K12 space, so it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of love. And since we're not doing the Iron Viz for money, some other things sometimes get in the way. So this is kind of my, here's how I started. And here's what I ended up with. I found the names really interesting. If you go through here, I've tried to say how many different schools have this in their name and what states show up for this. And then I really love, one of my favorite Tableau features is the density map. And you'll see this in a second, where you can see some areas and some names are really popular in some parts of the world, like Centennial's really popular in the West, but not so popular in the East, and really popular in California there. But coming up here, Central, if you go Central and North, you've got these in almost all the states, except Nevada has a school that has the name Central in it. So I just found this kind of interesting and fascinating. It doesn't do much. You'll see I had some trouble. I tried to color match over here, but it did such a great job. I couldn't get to the color, but it was a good try. This one I think looks a little clunky. We're going to have Ryan chime in too as we go through these. So Ryan, what do you see?
David, I wonder if there's, we just see the contains Cherokee in the state map with the schools and states. Is that the only thing we should be seeing?
That's the only thing I got.
Okay.
Yes, I saw it. That's as good as I get.
Some are concerned. Some are saying they're still seeing the slide deck, which I don't see. So I'm wondering if that could just be a personal internet connection delay for some folks. But I do think that we're seeing the correct viz. And so if you are not seeing a map with 4624, I think it's just your personal internet maybe is froze or something.
But we're going to have commentary. Ryan, you've got some commentary as well?
Hey, Stephanie, it looks like Ryan, his audio, it's like he's at an attendee instead of a presenter. So is there a way we can update that? And maybe David, just for the sake of time, we just move on to the other presenters, and we can have Ryan chime in on the future ones.
Well, here's what happens. Then after you see this, you'll have a chance to vote. And the voting is here at the K12, tiny URL, K12 Iron Viz 2024. And the voting will take you to a voting sheet. But because I'm the assessment facilitator, I thought we should have a rubric for this. And the rubric is here. We've got 4 different categories: visual appeal, which has to do with the color, the layout, the use of white space, those sorts of things. And we have these on different levels. So we've got the deep level of the visual aesthetics, the proficient, the general, and an early. And we've got, what does this wow you? To say, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's good work. Or hey, keep it up, buddy. Keep trying. It's still, you still got a ways to go, but we're glad you're doing it. Technical complexity is another element. The different calculations, the graphs, the Tableau tools that you use. Ease of understanding. Can you understand what's supposed to say right away? Does it have that, what is it, 5-second rule or whatever it is, be able to see something? And then interesting data revelations, like, oh, wow, that's really interesting that they chose to with that one. For me, I think mine is interesting, but it's only interesting maybe to me. But then you get the chance to vote here, and you'd get to say, well, let's see, visual appeal is, well, it's pretty good. Technical complexity, I would say, keep it up, buddy. Ease of understanding, it's good, but like maybe some people say, why? And for me, I really like the data revelations because I've thought using that was really interesting. But to vote, you got to make sure you put in your email address. And then, let's see, what is my email address? Here we go. And then wait until you've seen all of them to vote for all of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over now to the other presenters so they can go. But the next one in line, we're going to start with Shelby from Douglas County Schools.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my screen shared. All right. Can you see okay? All right, so my name is Shelby Heston. Yes, I'm from Douglas County Schools. I'm a data visualization engineer over here. And I focused on student to teacher ratios from this data set. It took me a long time to clean it. I used Tableau Prep to clean the data. I chose to follow a more vertical format. It was originally very much horizontal because we had a column for each variable for year. So I switched that to be a vertical format. So I've got a column for just the year. And that allowed me to kind of filter the way that I want to by year. So I've got a map of the United States, and I used a Lambert conformal conic projection instead of the Mercator projection, so that Alaska would be a little bit smaller because it was taking up a lot of space on the map, and I thought that this was easier to navigate. So I've got the student-to-teacher ratio. Each state is colored by its ratio, and then a breakdown for the whole United States. Number of students, the percentage of free or reduced lunch students, and then a breakdown of students by race. And then down here, I have the same thing before us. And you can select a state to change it. Down here, I had Colorado selected, but you can select another state. And down here, you have, again, that same breakdown just at the state level. And you can select a district and break down a little bit further. So on the left, we can update and see. This just allows us, I think, to explore, where we see really high or low student-to-teacher ratios, kind of what's the breakdown of free or reduced lunch students and students by race, and how many students do they actually have in that district. So I thought it was just interesting to present that in that way. And we can also select a district from the list over here, and we can highlight and kind of see those same demographics changing on the left side. So I wanted to make this as interactive as possible. So I used a lot of, I used dynamic zone visibility and some dynamic filtering as well. And that's what allows us to kind of see the different states and districts down here. A lot of cleanup for a while. I think that's where I spent most of my time, was cleaning up the data. California didn't have any teacher data for this school year, for the 2019-2020 school year. So I just added a little note for that, but it did have it in previous years. So we can look each year and kind of see what changes. 17. But I just wanted to make this as interactive as possible so we could kind of focus on, I guess the user could really focus on what they wanted to see. So if we wanted to see more of California, then we could zoom in and do that. So I don't think there's anything else. on here, I think that's really it. So.
Shelby, I really like that you use a lot of the things that are native Tableau and like the counties. I just love the way that counties break up and you can see different sized counties. You're in California there. But in other states, you may or may not know that the school districts are generally by county. So California, they have a lot of independent ones. And I really liked your interactivity on the bottom one there. And I agree that using, which I didn't do, using the different maps so that Alaska doesn't look so huge is a great way to go. So
thank you.
I saw your visit, like, oh, I could have done so much more.
Yeah, the map looks a little overwhelming when Alaska is just, it's huge, so it's hard to navigate the rest of the states.
And I like how you put a box around the total number over there. And you're using donut chart. Terrific.
Thank you.
Ryan, what do you see?
Hello, everyone. My mic is now working, so I'm here. I love the interactivity of it. I'm always a big fan of being able to click on things and see how that changes the dashboard, but then also just allows for kind of further insights. And I love the colors of it. I just love how it's all tied together. Like David was talking about, having the boxes and the borders around kind of your big KPIs there, but just the color palette of it works really well. And then the functionality of, I've got my high level view up top, and then if I want to drill into a little bit more detail, I've got kind of the second half of the page here. And yeah, I think when you initially said that you went for a taller approach as opposed to a wider approach, at first I thought you meant your dashboard, but then I was like, oh, she's actually talking about the data.
Yeah.
But the dashboard does reflect the data choices that you made of making it, a skinnier data set that's much taller.
Yeah.
And so your dashboard actually follows suit. So I like it.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was looking at it on the website. I have a pretty big screen, so I could see both at the same time. I was like, why doesn't the national one change at the same time when you select a state? But now that you're demonstrated it on a screen, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense when you're just looking at it part by part. So thanks for that. Let's see if people have some questions for you.
Oh, okay. I need to get to there.
Sarah asks, how long was the data cleaning process? I'm curious about your experience with Tableau Prep.
How long was the process? I would say, I worked on it a little bit each day for maybe about a week, mostly because I was trying to kind of figure out the direction that I really wanted to go with it. And in the process of using Tableau Prep to clean just this data set, I also linked it to the data set that has the district boundaries that also comes from NCES, their EDGE project. So you can get the district boundaries, which is how I got this map to appear. So that was another shapefile that I had to clean up and connect so that I could actually link the original data set we got with that one. My experience with Tableau Prep, I took the e-learning course in Tableau Prep, and I've used it in my own work for a few different projects. I wouldn't say I'm an expert or anything, but I'm very comfortable with it at this point. So,
wow, you impressed. You linked the data set. Do you have your prep flow file handy or no? You can show people what it looks like. Flow.
I do have it. I can open it. And sure, I'll open it up and just kind of have it on the side while it's going to take a second to open. So let me get it.
It's pretty big, yeah.
While I answer the next question. Is it possible to add a breakdown, change to see other demographics breakdown? Could you clarify that a little more? Like, these we only have the free and reduced lunch and then the race counts. So just in that data set, but if we had other demographics to consider, if we had like gender or something, then I could have added that.
Yeah, data set limited them to things that were common between 2018, 19, and 20.
Shelby, I do have another question. Can you remind us what was the name of the map style that you used that put Alaska down below?
Yeah, it is the Lambert conformal conic projection. And it's from, so one of my coworkers, Tom, he actually went to the Tableau conference last year, and I think that they did a presentation on how to get this map working. So I can maybe share the link to that at some point in the chat, maybe, so that other people can see.
That'd be great.
And I do have Tableau Prep open if we want to see what I did in Tableau Prep.
Yeah, just give up for folks that aren't as familiar with Tableau Prep and its cleaning, just give us a quick show and tell here.
Sure. Let me switch this up then.
I had one too, but it's much more, it's a lot more simple because I didn't join anything.
Yeah, so this is the, let's see, I've got the original data set up here, and then I have school locations. I ended up not using part, but I did have the school locations also from the Edge project that I was thinking about joining. I joined it, but I didn't actually include it in my visualization. It kind of was getting a little too messy. But I've got the district boundary files here that I unioned and then cleaned up a little bit, but this is kind of the general flow. So I ended up having two different outputs because linking the district boundary to the same district repeated multiple times was getting a little too messy. So I just had two different outputs, and I linked them within Tableau Desktop using the district and CES ID. But here's where I switched from that really wide view to a kind of tall and skinny view of the data by pivoting on the school year column. And let's see if I can show any of that. And then just kind of some general cleanup here and there. So yeah, I've got I used the agency name, the year, and then each of the other variables that we have. And I cleaned it up. I believe I used, because each of the columns had the year appended to it. So I think I used that to help me with the pivot. So general cleaning, I think I renamed some things, grouped a few things. So that was what I did with Tableau Prep.
You can hear David frantically typing away. Adding all of those great commentary in the chat. Awesome. All right, let me just double check to see if there's anything else we can. As a reminder, I put in the chat the link for the rubric. So we'll give you a second to kind of open that up. There's just, a few items. Don't push send yet. There goes David again typing.
Oh, it's too loud. I gotta mute myself.
It is so loud. All right. What was I saying? Oh yeah, don't push submit because we have a lot more presentations to go through here. So, all right. David,
indeed.
Do you want to kick us off with the next one here?
Yes, indeed. We've got more to go. We've got wonderful coming up. And our next one, oops, wrong screen. Our next one coming up is Timothy from Austin Free.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. I'm currently working in the Austin schools. I've been here for about 19 years as a school psychologist, and I've just recently shifted over to an admin job, which is basically a data coordinator and analyst position. So I get to get my hands dirty in a lot of different data projects across the district, and it's been really eye-opening. And I can say officially that Tableau has been a game changer for me personally, professionally. It's just been such a huge tool that I think has opened my eyes to how easy it can be to sift through a lot of educational data. So that being said, I want to share my Viz. I think if I'm selecting the correct screen, folks seeing that okay? All right, so basically I tried to combine a few variables at once What this does is looks at the main variables of school need, which I use to represent the free reduced lunch numbers, and then school resources, which I use as the pupil and teacher ratio. So I think each of the quadrants does tell a slightly different story. The top two quadrants, as well as the bottom left quadrant, can be used to filter out for the other quadrants. But I'll walk through each one. The top left shows the median free reduced lunch percentage for that entire state. And as I wish I had learned from Shelby about the little map trick earlier, because I was this close to just simply excluding Alaska from my data set so that I could have a smaller map. Now, when I click on this, typically, maybe folks can tell me why, but typically the state is going to shrink down once I click on it. And I'm wondering if I'm either in the wrong.
No, it looks like we've lost connection there.
Okay, let me see. Let me see.
But it does
All right,
work.
let's try this again. Okay. So once one of the states is clicked on, it should reduce the data for the other quadrants. So clicking on free reduced lunch for North Dakota, for example, will also show in the bottom left what the median pupil and teacher ratio is, as well as if there were changes over the last few years, over the years given, for free reduced lunch percentage by year. The free reduced lunch percentage that I used, I created a calculated field for the data set that just combines all the racial groups together to give a total number, and then divided the number of students that were free reduced by that total number. Down in the bottom right corner is where a person could look more drilled down at the state level as to all the different counties and where they kind of land as far as the schools within that county that have a lower pupil teacher ratio and a higher lunch percentage, for example. So it may be an indicator, a person could dig down and investigate, for other districts similar to mine in this county or across the state. How are they, able to, provide resources such as a low pupil teacher ratio for students when they have a much higher free reduced lunch percentage as an indicator of need. So it's really meant to be interactive across a few different variables. I did not quite go as far to show any kind of detail at the school district level. And frankly, it was looking busy enough just at the county level. So I used that as my stopping point as far as I wanted to drill down. But that's the general overview. And if folks have questions about it, that would be great.
Timothy, I really appreciate the bottom right one. That is really a nice way to demonstrate how the different counties are interacting. We've got another teacher pupil ratio sets coming up, and I like the way you brought all these kind of together. I like you couldn't hide Canada, so I wish I would have had the long name for that map that I have in my book. I can't spit out the words, and I like the interactivity as well. The one thing that I had only wished was that the number and the median pupil was bigger for my poor tired eyes.
Good point. Yes.
But nice work here, bringing all of this together, and I like that you cited the data source up there. I didn't do that. There's a lot of things I left out, but certainly, given the balance of time and effort, you really showed a lot of love here. So I appreciate your putting all this in.
Thank you,
Ryan. What do you see?
Timothy, I really like it. I'm a big fan of the kind of, you had touched on that idea of presenting, in some ways it's very similar information, but just presenting it in a different way. And it's highlighting different aspects of it. So I'm not just looking at, that pupil to teacher ratio, but I'm getting to see how it compares to like my lunch percentage, and I get to see how it compares to other, other states and years. And so while it's all, similar information, I'm giving, like, it's hitting a wide variety of audiences, because there might be one audience that is more focused on, kind of that year trend, and then another audience, maybe such as yourself, that's looking at the different county chart down on the bottom right, and you can see kind of where your passion for kind of how you're using this information to drive the questions that then come from that, of like, how are districts or counties, that fall in a specific quadrant within that chart, like how are they doing that? And it leads to those types of discoveries and questions that you then get to go and kind of explore and see, like, how are they doing this? Because my county might be somewhere else on that chart, and said wanting to actually use this data to then drive the decisions, or potential future decisions. And I also noticed the cited data source. I was like, dang, it's like, that's classy up there. I didn't even really think about doing it either.
Well, I want to build on what Ryan said too. I totally use the interactivity to look at Minnesota, where I'm from originally, to see what the counties were, because I know the counties in Minnesota pretty well. When you created this map, did you see anything about New York that you hadn't known before?
Yeah, I mean, New York and some of the other states were harder to sift through as far as what even the county level could show, because there's just clearly so many groups there. Let me get over to New York, but yeah, I did the same kind of digging around to see like neighboring counties and how we might either learn from each other, or what we could, even infer from it. Some of these too, I've got to be honest, certain groups that fell in a, medians that were almost too good to be true. I started to question the data myself and say, well, maybe the district didn't quite report the same way as everyone else. And I think that's always going to be room for error. But yeah, I did the same kind of digging as you. We're Westchester County, where I'm located, which tends to have a lot of resources. And then I'm also in a district that also has a lot of school need. So we're a pretty high free reduced lunch district. So I think that's what was driving a lot of the interactivity here, because, out of curiosity, I like to see how one district, even in a different county right next door, can differ drastically as far as their resources or their need.
Okay. Questions for Tim? Comments in the chat, questions in the Q&A.
I don't see any in there. I'm not sure how to clear out the ones from the last presenter, so I'm just trying to keep track of those. So I think the two that are sitting in there from Shelby's. Going once, going twice. I think there's an option, I think, that you can DM or direct message Tim as well, if there's a question that you come up after, or put it in the chat, I think would be fair enough as well. So I think we're ready to move on to the next one.
Okay, so now we'll go back to the next presenter. Same kind of thing. Look into the void while I change here. And the next one we're going to go to, don't forget to vote while it's in your mind for a tip, is Brian of Fresno County. He's going to talk about student to teacher ratios.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you all still hear me? I think the audio paused while I was screen sharing.
We can.
All right. Okay. And can everybody see the window I'm sharing?
Yes, we see the internet browser window.
Okay. All right. So my name is Brian Cortez. I'm a data analyst here at Fresno County Office of Education. Happy to be here today. Happy to participate. Thank you for the K12 TUG team for putting at this Iron Viz competition. It's always been something I'm kind of interested in participating in. But first, though, I want to thank Sarah because I almost didn't make it here today. A few weeks ago, like literally when you guys made the data source available, I got a jury summons. So, so yesterday I got a confirmation that I didn't have to come in. So here I am today. But thank you to Sarah for working with me to try to accommodate me. We were just gonna play a video of me talking through this viz, but fortunately I can do that myself. We don't have you don't have to watch a video. So yeah, thank you, Sarah. So anyway, about my entry, I decided to go with a data journalist approach because my home state of California is not represented in the 2020 data set, and I wanted to focus on the 2020 year. I didn't want to, I just wanted to focus just on that 1 year. And also since, even though I wanted to do something that we could possibly use here at FCOE, our counties are not included. So I decided, hey, maybe, I've always been curious about data journalism, so maybe here's my chance. So anyway, as far as the process goes, the first step is to clean and reshape the data set in Tableau Prep. And let me switch to my Tableau Prep window. Can you guys see the Tableau Prep window?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm not hearing you guys right now, so anyway. All right. So thank you. So the major steps in the cleaning up and prepping the data is to group the data by state, because I decided I'm going to do a nationwide analysis, and my unit of analysis would be states. The other major step is this pivot step, and what I did there is I pivoted all the race and ethnicity columns so I can have the race and ethnicity counts, and I can apply some aggregations on there. As far as the independent variable for this viz, I chose student teacher ratios. I was curious as to whether there's some equity component to student teacher ratios. That's why I went through the trouble of pivoting the race and ethnicity column. So that's the cleanup process. I'm going to talk about the viz now. So anytime I work on a viz, the first step usually is to hop onto Tableau Public to get some inspiration. I just kind of, browse and find, try to look for something that that might suit my not only would suit my needs, but would also be visually striking. So once I decided on the layout, I head on to Figma. I'm not sure if you all have heard of Figma, but it is a free web-based layout prototyping tool that web designers and app developers use to test out ideas prior to development. So I go on Figma, I play with the layout a little bit, and then I get onto Tableau, and that's when I started making the viz. And so at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and demo it. So I have a 2-panel setup. I know that, I know that, I'm going to need to display some text to kind of introduce the audience to the idea of student-teacher ratios. So this text was just kind of lifted from the National Center of Education Statistics. So after I put that text on there, now admittedly, I had to review my some basic math about how ratios work. It's embarrassing to say. I'm a professional data analyst, and I forgot how ratios work. So anyway, I thought the audience would probably go through that same issue, right? So I thought I need to visualize this idea of a lower ratio is better for students. So I went ahead and created these unit charts. The students are represented by desks, and the teacher is represented by an apple sitting on top of books. I really tried to stay away from gendered icons here. So, and these are generated through data densification, by the way. These are not images. And it's showing the lowest ratio in the country, which is Vermont at 11:1. The national average, which can be found in Maryland, is 15:1, and the highest one in the country is Arizona at 23:1. Now, on the right is where I have all my viz, all my charts rather, and I have actually 3 charts here that's being, and we can swap through them by using this sheet swapping parameter that's controlled by the dynamic zone visibility. So let me talk about the hex map first. So I went with a hex map to avoid all the the geographic size issue. You know, so this way everyone is of an equally proportioned hexagons. But when I mouse over to a state, oops, hold on, reconnect. Come on, tooltip. Uh-oh, hold on, sorry. Let me try to refresh this window. So when I try to mouse over a state, it will bring up a tooltip that has some information. It does show the real geographic shape, just so I don't, offend any state. There you are, Alaska. That's how you look like. It, it tells them it shows their student-teacher ratio, how they rank as far as student population. California has no data, and when you mouse over California, it does reflect that. I have these legends over here that that shows how I color coordinated or how I color coded these hexagons. And this is a customized legend that I like to make on all my desktop. I just kind of like the way they look and how they fit into a nice little thin shape. So yeah. Over here, I have a student demographic parameter, and when you select one, let's say this is why I went through the trouble of pivoting the race and ethnicity columns. So, for example, if I want to see BIPOC students, it will overlay the percentage of that population, and it will use a percentage number as well as a donut chart. And we can see here, for example, and the reason why I did this is to let the audience kind of interact with the map and see whether, does having a high population of a certain group of students affect the student-teacher ratio. And from here, you can see that it really doesn't, because if you select, white, for example, places like Utah, Idaho, Oregon are high white populations, but they're also among the states with the higher student-teacher ratios. So I have other charts here. Let me go on to the bar chart, and the bar chart is just showing you the population size for each state, and it's still color coordinated based on this legend over here. And what I'm trying to say with this bar chart is that student-teacher ratios, the magnitude of it is not so much a function of student population size. And then for my final chart, I also have an XY plot that shows the correlation between student population and student-teacher ratios. And for this, there is a positive correlation between those two variables, but it's weak and insignificant. And finally, when I have some blurb over here about what this viz is being created for. where the data set is from, who I am. And then when you hover over credits, it will show you some of the resources that I used. And that's it.
Well, go ahead and leave that up there, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah. That's bravo. That's I really liked how you started with the idea of data journalism, and so the black and white of the newsprint made me think about the black and white photo that you had in the background there with the American flag. Really enjoyed the use of the desks. First, I thought I wasn't sure what they were. But they're like, oh yeah, this is not because what's the game, asteroids or whatever. The asteroids, but no, they're desks. That's terrific. And then just the chart swapping and the explanation, particularly the explanation in the XY plot there, just blew my mind. It was like, oh, that's really good. So thank you for doing that. And then I put in the chat that I really do like your tooltips. Those are really impressive as well. So nicely done all around. You put your also props for putting the data source and all that information down below there. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I really like this one. Same thing, like the sheet swap and getting to choose between the different charts. Again, kind of touches on that idea of hitting different audiences, and trying to perhaps analyze different things. While it's similar information, we're still looking at the state details that we just get to, we get to see it in a little bit different format. I really like on the left-hand side calling out like the state that has the best ratio, the state that has the worst, and then calling out like a state that hits right there at the average. It's just like a great way of, I provide this dashboard that has all sorts of information, but giving people kind of that quick hitter information of instead of having to go find all these things, it's like, hey, here's quick 3 points that I've found that you don't have to go searching for, like boom, boom, boom. And so I really like that. And I like what you did with the credits there. I've used the Noun project before too, and I've kind of always struggled with like, how do I credit, that I've used the Noun project? And so I've tried to figure out different ways of doing that. And so I really like the tooltip idea of just hover over it and it says like, hey, this is where I got these little icons from. And so I'm a big fan of it. You might have to tell us a little bit about, I'm curious how you did the overlay with your with the hex map and then the donut chart on top of it. Also like your the custom legend. I don't know about anyone else on the call, but I think legends prove to be really frustrating because the default legends are never as informative or customizable as I want them to be. And so I like that you have kind of your own up there. And the Viz and tooltip, I think that's just a great use of it, of showing the state, what it looks like, and then here's that high level information again. So
Thank you.
A lot of information in there.
Yeah, Brian,
Thank you.
to Ryan's question, would you have questions about how you did the overlays and the chart swaps? Could you talk a bit about your overlays and your chart swaps?
Sure. So in the new version of Tableau, you can have map layers, right? So you can drag your lat long value or your geometry value, and it will drag it there as another layer, right? So rather than use a map on that new layer, you can just use a different visual type. So I decided on that new layer, I will just have a donut chart. And then I decided yet another layer on top of that donut chart. It would be nice to have the number and the state abbreviation. So it's just a function of the map layers. And then for the custom legend, this is actually a chart. So it's I'm using the placeholder technique. I'm not sure if the Tug group is familiar with that. It's when you put a a minimum of one on the a minimum of one pill on the columns and rows, and it will pretty much create a fake dimension for you. And you can apply all sorts of coloring. You can apply labels to it, and that's how I accomplished this custom legend. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. I really like that idea of the mapped layers, because the few times I have used the layers, I've just used it to, provide kind of that second level of detail. So whether it's the state and then I get to see the counties, or maybe it's the country and I get to see the states. But I've never really thought about applying it with just a whole kind of secondary chart type, so that it's not like I'm not just looking at a map, but on top of it is, that donut chart. That's awesome.
Yeah. Perhaps I should have credited the people that introduced me to idea. They're out on Tableau Public, and there's way too many of them. But it's being used out there. And just a little tip: go beyond the United States or go beyond the K12 space when you're looking for inspiration, or you're looking for, and don't be afraid to download it and reverse engineer it.
And also, a question was how you use desks that are not actually images, but they are images. But you talked about, I can't remember the term you used, but they're actually, they will change based on the amount in the state.
Right. So there's a technique called data densification. So
densification.
Yeah. So it's if any of you guys ever tried your hand at a Sankey chart, it's driven by the same principle. It's pretty much, so Tableau, when you put a numeric dimension, it wants to draw like a full bar, right? But when you apply data densification, and I'm oversimplifying the process here, when you apply data densification, it will try to draw discrete units, and then so these icons, I added it as a custom shape. And when I tell it to draw these distinct units, I apply the shape that I downloaded. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's true.
There's really more to it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
I think there's one more question in the QA, and then there's a question that's in the chat. So trying to monitor all of these pop-ups here. So I'll go to the other one in the QA from Holly. For low, average, high ratio examples on the left panel, is that for all grade levels in the state or a specific grouping, elementary, middle, high?
There are no grade levels on the data set. So no, this is just, I think, a very high level ratio calculation.
Okay. The one that's popping up in the chat is, how did you make it so that the charts could be swapped while maintaining the left-hand description? So kind of your two panes that you have did you use containers? Any insight into kind of that, how they're working independently?
Oh yes. So if you notice, there's a darker black color background for the charts themselves. So those are containers. So when you select a parameter here, it will tell a Boolean calculated field to, it'll tell it to be true or false, and that then triggers the dynamic zone visibility. I hope that makes sense.
So yeah, to clarify that the sheet swap is just happening on that darker gray box on the right-hand side, and nothing else on the visualization is affected by that. So your background image, your left-hand text, or your ratios.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. I think that addressed it. Let me just double check that there's not anything else popping up. I think we've hit all of those. Just triple check. Okay, I think we're good. So
Okay.
Brian, thank you again for kind of diving in to some of those nuances of your workbook. So David, if you want to go ahead and transition us to the next one.
You bet. So terrific. We appreciate that, Brian. And next coming up, as we go stare at the void for a little bit, is going to be Claire. So don't forget to go to the voting pieces as well. After to go through, share your reviews of Brian and evaluation, and we'll move on to Claire.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay, so I'm Claire Sims. I'm the Senior Data Visualization Designer at Boulder Valley School District in Colorado. And here is the dashboard that I put together. So let me talk you through it. The way I kind of approach this is one of the first things I noticed in the data set was that multi-year aspect of it. And so my first curiosity was, is there a story happening of change over time? Interestingly, the years were also just pre-pandemic. So I thought that could be a story too of like what was happening in public schools across the nation just leading up to the pandemic, knowing that in the years since then, we probably would see a lot of change and different patterns. So I wanted the audience to see first kind of a national story and then be able to drill down to their state. Because I know when I approach a viz like this, I'm always like, oh, what's happening in my state or somewhere, where my family lives, or, making it personal. And then because the data went down to district and school level, I wanted to have those layers in there as well. So this is kind of a way that I would approach a typical project in my day-to-day work. Creating dashboards for educators as well is that I like to provide kind of that summary information, what's the big picture story, but also really give them the ability to drill down and see the raw data. For them, that would be students. For us, maybe on this call, we'd want to go see like our own district or our own schools. So like several others on the call, my first step was reformatting the data a little bit. I also used Tableau Prep. And again, that key change was going from that wide data format to a long format, particularly using the school year and a little bit of other cleanup. One thing I'll note, I made the assumption, and I see a few other people doing it, so I think it was correct, that the ethnicity categories could be summed up to get a total count of students. One thing I wondered or worried about a little bit was, is there a low N limit on the data? But kind of looking through the raw data, that did not seem to be the case. And it did seem like the ethnicity categories were comprehensive. So that was just one thing I kind of built in here. So going to the viz, something this kind of reflects again, like how I would approach like a real work visualization that I would make. I like to use a pretty clean design, pick a color coding that I use consistently throughout. I love the blue-orange that you can find. That's like a color palette built into Tableau, and I sort of went off of that. I actually had a colleague here was kind of teasing me a little bit when I showed him a chart recently that had red-green. He was like, where's your blue-orange? So that's something that I use all the time in my real work. I also here wanted to highlight the year like that the pandemic hit, and also the most recent year of data that was in this data set. So I used a couple shades of blue for the earlier years and then used this kind of dark orange to call out the most recent year of data. Let's see, I employed bands or big angry numbers on the dashboards to call out like some of the top level trends here. With each school year, I wanted to include total number of students, that FTE number that a few others have referenced, and the total number of agencies that we're looking at year to year. And then within the chart itself, I love a bar chart. I'm kind of old school. With that chart, I wanted to make sure to include 0 with that, so we didn't get kind of misleading heights of the bars. But I noticed that made some of the bars kind of hard to see. There's like pretty big differences depending on some of the categories that we're looking at. So here we're breaking down my ethnicity categories. So in addition to having just the bars, I made sure I wanted to label those. And then to show that story that might be happening over time, I also included a year-over-year change metric. So that was using table calculations. And I added a little like visual indicator, like an up or down arrow to show you which direction that was going from the prior year. Let's see. So with this, I have the breakdown. You can explore it by ethnicity. We also had an FRL eligible category. Oh, that's fun. Let's see. There we go. And then grade level, I think this has been mentioned too. We only had K3 available in the data set. So I used that. Again, I was wondering if those grade levels might be an indicator of overall kind of enrollment number changes that were happening across the board. But what I found in the data, interestingly, was actually not a ton of change year to year nationwide on average. So I just put like a couple sentences here. The total student enrollment increased slightly, but really where I saw the largest percentage increases were among those students who identify as 2 or more races. Otherwise, a lot of the groups, there was, maybe a percentage point or 2 change over time. Again, I would expect that that's probably changed more in the years since 2020. What else here? Oh, I dipped my toe into mapping a little bit. I don't usually do that. It's not really relevant as much with my day-to-day data, but I used it just to call out and set the context of kind of what we're looking at on any given dashboard. So here, this is the national story. So I did bring in like the map of the nation, but just sort of backgrounded it. And as I click through the story points here, I use that again for the state as well. So just some like subtle pieces of mapping included in this. So also to point out, I used stories, that Tableau feature. Again, that's not so much in my day-to-day, and I did find one limitation that I'll point out in a moment with that. But I did really like having the story points here as a way to sort of step through like the possible path of analysis that the user could take as they go through that. So here you can pose the question of how does your state compare to that national data story? The dashboard is really designed quite similarly to parallel what you just saw with the national story, but now you can do a quick comparison to your state. And here I'll just point out, like, I was wondering about some states that might look a little different or have interesting data. So like Hawaii, as might be expected, has a much larger native Hawaiian population than many other states might have. Yet, as I looked at their data, I saw that they also were going with the national trend of some increase in their students who identify as 2 or more races. So while they have kind of a different story, also they were following the national trends in a way as well. Okay. Moving along in the story points. So this is where I ran into a little bit of a limitation. As I'll show you on my final dashboard here, I wanted to use dynamic zone visibility. And what I found was that that feature did not really play nicely with the story points. So I kind of was already invested in using story at this point in the design. So I was like, okay, I need a workaround. So here I'm just letting the user know, like, okay, there's a way to go explore the data further, but I had to pop it into a different tab. All right, so here's the district and school dashboard. So like I was saying, I really like to give users the ability to really dig down into the data and get down to pretty much the raw data so that they can see what the story is for their own context. So here, I'm going to take it to a more familiar context for me. I'm going to go to Colorado. I use dynamic zone visibility to drill down. And let me actually take this down a little more. I'm just going to pick my district, Boulder Valley, and one of our neighbors. kind of similarly sized. And from here, what we can do is drill down to get, I called it like an information card, but for a given district, you can click and after seeing, again, those top level enrollment numbers and change over time, start to break that down by some of the other variables that were available. So the FTE per school average, the ethnicity groups, and the FRL numbers as well. So just an easy way to kind of click through and compare. And then I'll drill down one step further. So I added this hierarchy in the data so that you could go from district down to school. So for me, like I would look at this and I was kind of wondering like, okay, one of the big high schools that I support in our district, what has been their story over time? And, you know, putting that together with what I know about that school in more recent years as well. Yeah, so overall, I think it was like pretty interesting that there wasn't a lot of change in the numbers over those 3 years nationwide, but I really enjoyed going through the data set and clicking through with different states, seeing, you know, how those patterns differed. And again, I really liked coming in here, and even though it's for my district, like data that I work with all the time about their numbers, it was still fun to go through with different schools that I'm familiar with and see what their patterns looked like. All right, thank you.
Terrific. So Claire, that was really, I really appreciate all the different styles that you put in there, of the maps and the drill down. I explored this earlier before. I could just spend like hours in here. One of the fun things I really like though is how you put the name above the county shape and the name above the state shapes when you're in those particular dashboards. Those are great. And so nice job all around with your color schemes. Like, as you said, you like them clean, looking very clean, and really well done. Ryan, what do you got?
Claire, yeah, wow, just the like two things that really stuck out to me that I'm just a huge fan of. The ability to click on, so back when you're on kind of the story, when you click on one of your big angry numbers up at the top, how it actually filters the chart down below to just show that one. I'm a big fan of that. But then the second one, that it's such a small thing, but it's the attention to detail that goes into it. I even like downloaded it because I was like, how'd you do this? Is getting the year to show up in the tooltip colored for the year that you're looking at. Is just like, it's just such this small tiny detail that ties everything together. So instead of having to just see like a black bolded year, it's colored for the year that I'm looking at. And I'm sure as an end user, like I don't really think about those types of things. Like it just shows up as this reddish orange 2019 2020. But from a developer standpoint, like there's a lot of care and attention that goes into creating that functionality so that it shows up that way. And so I think it's just so marvelous. And for the district school, I really like that idea of kind of that note card size, just almost like just really high level information that I could almost like screenshot for any one of the schools in my district, or for the district as a whole, and just get some really in-depth information there that is presented in such a nice, clean, digestible, and probably shareable format. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, no, we definitely have some tooltip game among our Iron Viz competitors. Yeah, I turned my tooltips off. I just like, I can't even deal with it. So that's terrific. Yeah, a great point, like a little index card there for each little school. Yeah, terrific.
Yep.
Well, we got to keep moving on, and I'm not going to swap slides this time. We just have one more presenter, and that is Rachel Hunter from the Great Madera County, no, the Great Unified School District. So 2 Californians in the group. Rachel, over to you. And don't forget that we have the voting form. If you forget about that, drop it in the chat there. so you can vote while you watch or
No.
review.
I think it's this one. I was gonna say 2 California people are really like 30 minutes away from each other. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, what? I was like, he can be my new best friend right now. So much like everybody else, once I saw the the data that we got, I was like, oh, this is very wide. I think I need to make it long. So did the same thing as everyone else did, kind of flipped it and started working with it, looked at it quite a bit, and then finally decided we were kind of working on free and reduced lunch at the time. So I was like, well, perfect timing. I'll just go with free and reduced. So I'm doing Feeding Futures, mapping free and reduced lunch programs in the US between 2017 and 2019. And mainly, I felt like this really struck home because we are more of a low income district. So providing that food to kids who need it. So, hopefully improves their grades and just making sure that we're reporting it accurately. So every kid has the opportunity to succeed in school, hence Feeding Futures. So I went with a little bit of a different route. I kind of like the story mode type of thing, but I didn't like the story mode in Tableau. So I kind of did it kind of this way. So we'll go through this one. And then I'm just going to do a nationwide overview, top 4 states, significant insights that I found, and then explore your state. So getting into this. The first one, like other people, the maps were throwing me for a loop. So, and I didn't download a hex, so I got a square map going on here, and then just different colors. I also have a little animation here. It'll switch through the years for you, and then right here's a legend to show, and then overall as a nation, how many students are in free and reduced lunch, the difference from year over year. The percentage of difference, and if it increased both years. So up here, my little caret is saying that, there's a slight increase year over year, but nothing drastic. So I was like, okay, let's look into the top 4 states over the years. There we go. And so this is basically on population, just the numbers that are enrolled at the time. So between these years, all 3 years actually, California, Texas, and Florida and New York were all top states that were providing free and reduced to their students. And yes, they all have a higher population too. So just looking at this and looking at the differences year over year as well, we can see that 3 of the states are consistently decreasing, whereas Texas is steadily increasing. So I thought that was interesting too. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. My little toast over here tells you. I was like, oh, Texas, steadily increasing. But I wanted to see what else can we find? What else can we dig into free and reduced to see what's going on? So now I'm jumping over to, did you notice the red states? So looking at those states did not report any free or reduced students. So in the first year, 2017, 2018, 4 states didn't report. And you can't really see it, but District of Columbia is right there. And then, so you can see it down here too, which ones aren't reporting. 2018, 2019 as well, 4 states did not report. And then 1920, Tennessee fell off because they reported. So it also makes me question, why do we not have numbers here? Is it just because they didn't get it in on time? Or are they doing something different? So it kind of throws out a red flag of why out of, all the states, we have a handful not reporting. So then moving on. Then I wanted to see the year over year change. And I feel like the most dramatic one was between 2017 to 2018. And we can see right here, the majority of the percentage change is ranging between like a -5% to a 3%, which I was like, okay, we have a few outliers here. But then we look over here and I'm like, what happened there, Alaska? Here you went down negative 23%. So they lost about 113,000 students from being reported for free and reduced lunch. So it makes me question, did something happen? And without specific background data on this, it's hard to really pinpoint what it is, but I have a few factors down here that could cause it, economic conditions, changes in eligibility, policy changes, demographic shifts, and then hopefully this is the one for over here, improved outreach and awareness, is that Arkansas increased 80% from a year over year, 1 year. Oh my gosh, 80%. So they brought in almost 140,000 students. So were they not reporting correctly the year prior? And now they are, but it's just something I felt was significant because yes, now we are supporting these kids and getting them the meals they need, but what happened before that? And are they on the right track to keep it going? So then next, I just did a quick state breakdown so you can see by your state how you're doing and the change year over year. So, I mean, you could see that big 80, and then the next year they're at a 3.3. So it's like, it seems like what they're doing is probably heading in the right direction. Alaska still seems to be, throwing things here and there. So they lost a lot and they gained a lot the next year. So this one is more of a scroll. You just go down and see how the different states are doing. And then this is my most favorite one, but it's just because there's interaction. But on this one, you can change your state. For right now, I'm going to stay on California because that's where I'm at. And then if I go into Madera County, we can see by district and the school level, and then the school name, how are they doing? How many schools do they have in their district? How many students are in free and reduced? If you come over here, you can see the difference between the years, the percentage difference. You can also, if you don't want to really look through all of this, you can go ahead and pick just yours. I kind of like this. Elementary, we have a total down here at the end, so I can see overall at elementary, what are we trending at? And then as total as a district as well, how are we doing as well? So, of course, kids are going to be moving, kids are going to be graduating. So numbers will always go up and down, but just trying to make sure we're not finding huge discrepancies in these. And then if you want to go back, you just hit there and then you can go ahead and navigate over to another state. We go out to Hawaii. We click one of those and it's like the same thing. So you just, there's only one here. So, you just do that and then you can just go back and you can just keep going through all your different states and the counties to see what school districts they have. This one only has one as well. And then just see how they're doing year over year. And then my last little thing, I want to throw a shout out because I really don't use maps a lot in my work. So a lot of Workout Wednesdays have helped me. Kevin also did a great presentation on how he does some of his Monday makeovers. So that's how I got like my little, which one was it? That's how I got this chart to kind of work out for me, so I could see that difference. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that to begin with. So it was kind of cool. And then I love watching Sean Miller on his YouTube videos because I'm like, dang, it helps just give me like a walkthrough if I need it to be like, okay, that's how I create this chart. So I use them pretty heavily, as well as Tableau Public, as others have mentioned. I look on there all the time too. And yeah, that is pretty much what I had.
Wow, Rachel, that was so terrific. Thank you so much for sharing. I just have a few things that I want to say, and I got to save my best for last. But just colors, the background colors change with these really cool colors. As was already put in the chat, the fonts that you chose. inspiration. You are now my inspiration. Because if you'll notice, my picture is the Cookie Monster. And so talking food, I love it.
Yeah, that I was a little nervous because I was telling my coworkers, I was like, "Is it a little kiddish?" I was like, "I'm doing free and reduced lunch though," and I was all like, "It's colorful," and they're like, "It's fine, it's fine." And I was totally nervous because usually what I make for work is more like bland, and so I was all like, "Oh geez, I hope this does not go the wrong way for
This
me."
is wonderful. Right,
But
what do you got?
the background and everything, how I made it was I did Canva, so that was I tried to use Figma as much as I can, but I feel like I'm just not a wizard at it yet, like I would like to be. But Canva is pretty easy drag and drop for me right now, so I kind of lean on that one. So this is all Canva kind of background-ish. So
Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, Rachel, I really liked it. As some people had mentioned with the previous one, of just the limitations of Tableau's default story feature, and so creating kind of your own story feel, just with those navigation buttons, that it feels very much like a story. But by doing it the way you did, I still get to take advantage of all the different function pieces that might otherwise be limited. I also really like, I think someone had kind of touched on it in one of the comments, of with like the talking carrot or the toast, and just providing some of the almost like your own commentary to what's going on in the visualization, but then you also give them the chance to do their own analysis and come to their own conclusions. So I really like that that approach of giving, kind of in some ways saying like, hey, here's something that might stick out to you, or maybe should stick out to you. There's other nuggets in here that you can go find, but here's what I found. And then also I really almost every single dashboard that I have done always includes that piece of that, the end user really just wants to see the data. And so I like that kind of that second to last piece, where you just give them the chance to pick their state, pick whatever county or school district, and then they just get to see the raw numbers. Because I think at the end of the day, some people don't want to see all the frills. They're like, I just want to see my rows and columns and get back to something that's more familiar. So just hitting those kind of all the different audiences by incorporating that text table there.
And California avocados, gotta love that.
Yeah, and it did, just kind of to your point that you had said in your day to day, your dashboards or visualizations are just a little bit more boring, but I really like that idea of curating the dashboard to the audience that you're talking about and the message that you're delivering. And I feel like it just landed really well. So yeah.
Thank you.
And representing the Central Valley too, I want to meet and get inspiration from you and from Brian. We can meet at Superior Dairy in Hanford. It's never been. It's a wonderful place to go. Okay, so if you haven't voted yet, please do vote. We're getting close. It's close to the end of the time. We're a little over time, but we've got some terrific visualizations coming up for you that Stephanie has created. So we'll go to my sharing here, and we will show you the last little bits here that we're going to go through for you all. Remember to vote. Rachel, terrific work. And now, Stephanie, do you have your data ready?
I was just making sure I got everyone.
Yeah,
Let's just see here. I'm doing a quick count.
Yeah, go ahead. And let me say that we have Stephanie is also an inspiration to me. She did a whole viz for this bit as well. So we've got some oohs and ahs coming up. You let me know when you want me to stop sharing, Stephanie.
Yeah, no worries. I just want to make sure I'm grabbing the most recent. So transparency, connecting to the Google Sheet, putting it in Tableau Prep. So I need to make sure that we have everything out here, running the prep flow. to get my output. And then once that's run, I think I can go into Tableau Desktop.
And a shout out to all the people who stayed through this event. I mean, because of the terrific visits that we shared, we had really high participation and very little drop off. We appreciate you staying to the end to see who the winner is.
And pull up my Viz.
If you drop in the chat what your guesses are.
We're all on the edge of our seats, Stephanie.
I know. I'm sorry.
I just, so
right? Like there's a little pressure right here. So now let me share my screen. All right, here we go. Dun, da, da, da. Share my screen. Brian.
Oh, Brian.
Here we go. Brian ended up with 341 points. 4 E's. Any wows got 4 points. Keep it up's got 1. So you can kind of see the color legend for each of those. Then we can see his high scoring piece was technical complexity. He earned 90 points. That second row in there. Visual appeal was 88. If we look at each of those 4 buckets, we can kind of see how those scores played out, matching that color coding, that dark teal being all of the wows that everyone received. And then if we look at the bottom, again, highlighting all of the wows from each of our presenter. So kudos to Brian and Rachel in here. Looks like it was pretty close in here, 341. To 339. So just a few points away from each other. So Sarah, if you want to go ahead and tell them kind of what those next steps are.
Yeah, Brian, Rachel, I will reach out to you individually for your prize. But I did just want to say thank you to everyone that participated. I know it's a lot of work to build a visualization outside of your day-to-day jobs, to clean the data set and build a viz to share with everyone. So thank you just for the time and effort you put into this. I know we all learned something from everyone, and it's a big, it's a big ask to get in front of an audience and show your work. So really, really appreciate it. And I thought this was a really fun event. So would love to hear anyone's feedback, and hopefully we can support something like this in the future, and open to suggestions and changes for the next time.
Yeah, no, I've got the same. We want to thank you. Also have Courtney in here from the Tableau team. Good to see you, and terrific thanks to all of our participants. I was glad to see that I was bringing up the rear, but for those of you who are hopefully I can be an inspiration to you too, that you can always get better. You don't have to be sick to get better. So thank you very much to everyone. Stephanie, any final words there, or final screen shares you want to do?
Yeah, so we'll just say we'll figure out how to get this downloaded, the recording. I think I have to set up a YouTube page and upload them there. We'll put it onto the community site. We'll also post the slide deck. There will be a slide in here to talk, because Plant Moran, it's where Ryan and I work, is helping to sponsor this. We're, donate our time and help facilitate these conversations. We do offer some self-paced training, and we do have a discount for our TUG users. So there'll be a slide in that. Feel free to, if you're interested in kind of seeing what that is. We've had some districts just buy 1 or 2 licenses just to kind of upskill intro through advanced skill sets. So that will be in there as well. Contact information for David and I, and then as well as all of your account reps. So happy to kind of sync up, help you network, get you connected with some of those other folks who are on this call or part of the network. Leverage David and I or your account execs to help make those connections. Again, I tried to capture all of those who are headed to TC from the chat. I will try to coordinate and facilitate some networking events, whether it's, during the day or often right after, maybe happy hour, et cetera. Try to get these teams together so you all can meet face to face and have a good time, and start to have familiar faces as you walk the halls at conference or at data night out. Have a great dance partner, right? Or to play games with. So anyways, thank you all to those who stuck it out. Thank you. A huge shout out to all of the presenters and that time you took out of your day to put these visits together, navigate the crazy data, and to share out. And again, David and Ryan, thanks for being that color commentary, helping me create that viz on the side there. Help me buy some time to pull that out. So thank you all again.
Yeah, we hope you had fun, and this is a community we want to see keep growing. So
Absolutely.
keep in touch, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
And you can stop the recording.